This is The Conscious Investor presented by Nuveen. This week, I want to take a look at Nuveen's third annual Responsible Investing Survey, which shows rising interest in working for, shopping from, and investing in companies that have a positive social and environmental impact. And this is even more true for millennials. The survey was conducted online in June 2017 and included over 1,000 affluent investors. These investors were all U.S. residents with over $100,000 in liquid investable assets who are currently working with a financial advisor. The survey found that 76% of investors say they'd like to work for an employer that makes a positive social impact on the world. But that number is 91% for the millennials surveyed and 70% for the non-millennials. 76% of investors also say they'd like to work for an employer that makes a positive environmental impact on the world. This breaks down to 92% of millennials and 70% of non-millennials. 72% of investors say they prefer to shop for brands that have environmentally sustainable business practices. This was true for 90% of millennials and only 64% of non-millennials. And millennials want to invest alongside these values. 64% of all the people surveyed said they care more about having a positive impact on society than doing well financially. But 92% of millennials agreed with this statement, and only 52% of non-millennials feel this way. It's clear that millennials think about social responsibility differently than the generations before them. So we asked some of our friends and colleagues in this age group to weigh in on these trends.
So what I think makes my generation different than older generations is the fact that we just have so much information readily available to us at our fingertips. Like if I want to know how climate change is affecting a marginalized group in a developing country, I can Google that and find out in 10 seconds.
My grandparents, when they were growing up, they grew up in the Great Depression when they were young, so that's kind of what they were brought into the world with. My grandpa and my grandma both have the tendency to hoard things and buy things that are on sale just so they can have them around the house, whereas I don't do that at all. I like to have a few things that are just really nice that I use all the time, and I don't see myself buying a bunch of things just to sit around my apartment because it just kind of wastes a lot of time, a lot of resources, and a lot of money.
My grandparents didn't have internet access or only had one newspaper or word of mouth, and then also didn't have any money. So they were focusing more on like a survival mode of purchasing. So nowadays I have more money and I have the internet to like access information. I have friends that know about this stuff. So it's a lot easier for me to figure out what I want and what I can use.
I feel like we tend to speak up more, and I feel like that is new and different from my parents' generation at least. And I think it's a very powerful thing that we have a voice now, and we see that in so many different events that are happening around the country. We see kids that are my age or even younger that are finally having a voice, and people are actually listening.
With the rise of social media, I think it's more and more important for us to be associated with brands and companies that share our same values and morals.
When the survey asked if they would put all of their money in responsible investments, 52% of all the affluent investors said that they would. But 92% of millennials said they were likely to put all their money in responsible investments. That's a big difference and indicates a shift in investing priorities.
The more stuff I read, the more issues I find out that I'm interested in and want to pay attention to.
As it all contextually aligns, I support brands, companies that are able to make that positive social impact and allow me to be a part of that.
So I would rather take a pay cut or buy something that I like a little bit less if it means that it makes other people more comfortable.